So welcome to Fall Assessment Day. I am very glad you're all joining me. This is a little bit of an interesting session. This is going to be a little bit different. We're going to see how it goes, but thank you for coming. I am going to put a couple things into the chat. Let me find them. So everything, all the resources for today are on our Gaucho site. There they are. And then at the end of the day or whenever you finish engaging in these activities, please make sure that you fill out the participation form so that you can provide feedback to us and kind of and so that we know who all participated. So there's that information as well. It would be really helpful to me because I'm managing a bunch of different things on my screen. If you're here and you can just throw your name into the chat, I would appreciate that. I can see some of who's here based on images, but I can't see all of you on my screen. So if you can open up your chat and just throw your name in, that would be great. All right. So this, like I said, is a little bit different. I was talking to Demita and I was saying, what is it that we can really do? We want to support student learning in our student affairs and like our academic affairs support areas. What can we really do to support learning? And so when she talked to some of the team members, maybe some of you, and she came back and she said, well, I think what they're really interested in is increasing enrollment and retention. And I think we're all interested in increasing enrollment and retention. So this is sort of my way of us thinking through how could we use assessment, which you might not normally think about, to try to achieve this goal. And so, sorry, I just saw Carrie Mitchell's in the house. So wonderful. And hello to everybody else. So where we're going to start is with something you might have seen this before. It's called a Padlet, and it's just like this little discussion board area. And it looks like we have quite a few different areas represented. So I see veteran services and I see ACE and so on. And I see career services. And so one of my questions kind of for you is around, I know that you probably have enrollment and retention goals that are related to 40X. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link for this Padlet that I'm showing on the screen into the chat. And what I've done is I've just like labeled team 1, team 2, team 3. So for example, I'm going to pick on Christopher in veteran services. So like team 1 could be, I could come in here and I could say this could be veteran services. And what I'm interested in knowing first is like, what is your 40X goal? Because I'm assuming you all have 40X goals related to enrollment and retention. And so to play along on the Padlet, you just click the little plus sign. So you would click this little plus that's right here. It would open progress. It would open a little window. Oh, what happened? Let's see. Okay, no, it looks like we're still recording. Okay, good. It'll open like a little area where you can then write something in, or you can just throw it into chat and tell me. I'm just curious to know as we start, before we talk about anything assessment related, what are you trying to achieve with 40X, especially if it's related to enrollment and retention? So feel free either to add it into the Padlet or just put it into the chat. And if you want me to rename your little team, let me know. Oh, there's financial aid. Okay. And hopefully this is pretty easy. Hopefully this is a copy and paste. All right, so maybe what I'll do now, hold on. I am going to, so we are looking obviously at my slides, which is a static image of this, but let me move this over. So we are seeing a faculty grade one, a financial aid one. Okay, STEM Connect, thank you very much. If we need another column, I don't know how many columns we have, if we need some more columns, I can add some more columns. Okay. All right, increasing faculty and staff engagement. Okay. I'm gonna move the STEM one over here. All right, so we're looking at some equity issues too, which is great because there's a lot of equity work happening in assessment, and that's in a later session today that we're going to talk about. All right, so if you're filling this in, keep doing that. But now what I want to do is come back here, and I'm going to ask you a question, and it's this question. So what is the one thing that if students knew it or understood it or could do it would have the greatest impact in your area on enrollment and retention? What is the thing that you throw your hands up in the air sometimes and be like, oh, I can't believe they're not understanding this? Or what is the one thing that you're like, if students could just do this, it would, like, our lives would be so much easier, and there'd be puppies and joy and unicorns and flowers and all of that. So I'm going to add another post to my instructions, and I'm going to add sort of that prompt in. And so now I want you, I'll put this back over here. And okay, I put it at the top. That's interesting. Anyway, but what I'd like to do is, now what I'd like to know, and again, you can put it on the Padlet, you can also put in chat, you can just unmute and shout it out. What is that thing that if students could do it would just make their lives far better and maybe even make your life far better? What's like the barrier or the stumbling block?
Julie, I have a question. Do you want us to, like, so for example, my career services 4DX goal is there. Do you want me just to add it underneath that as a comment? Would that be helpful? Okay.
You could do it as a comment. That would be fine. Or you could add. So initially,
just add the plus above. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, and I am. Oops, I'm going to go to my settings really quick because I thought it was going to add things. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted things to come in like in a nice little first, second, so on. Okay, and I'm seeing some things in chat. All right, if they could just turn in all the documents, okay. If they knew about the smart borrowing guideline, if they would read assignments early in the space of faculty. So what I like about this is we kind of know what that thing is, or what one thing is. It's just a question of like, how do we get there, right? And so this may not be what you normally think about as an assessment issue, but it actually is an interesting assessment issue. Okay, preparing students to be enrollment ready. Excellent. All right, so let's step back, and you're like, all right, this slide we're looking at here says nothing about assessment. But what I want to point out is what it is talking about is student learning, right? And that what we're talking about is the barriers we're experiencing, you're experiencing, are areas where students haven't learned how to do something that they need to do that would make them successful. So let's take one moment and step back into the assessment world. And let's talk about, when I use the word assessment, what I like to have people hear in their heads is student learning improvement. So, if I could actually change the name of CARD and change everything we do and whatever else, I would probably change it and talk about student learning improvement instead of assessment. But we're not going to do that because we have cool like logos and acronyms and all that. But when I say assessment, what I want you to think, or what I want you to hear is, this is about student learning improvement. And sometimes we're assessing for confirmation. We're trying to say, all right, do they have it? So every time any of you interact with a student, whether it's in a one-on-one or it's maybe in a activity you're doing, you're like looking for confirmation that they're getting the information. But we also know that sometimes they're not getting the information and there's space to improve. And so the focus of what we're trying to do here in CART across all of the areas of the college, academic affairs, student affairs, co-curricular, in the classroom, out of the classroom, is improvement. Like, how do we help students learn something that's going to allow them to be more successful? The other thing, because we haven't been talking a lot about assessment outside of some of the more academic space a lot recently, is I wanted to showcase this. This comes from National Louis University, and it said everything that we do in assessment should have these 5 characteristics. It should be meaningful, impactful, manageable, informative, and robust. So you should feel like this work relates to what you do and what you value, which is why we're talking about enrollment and retention and some of these challenges. It should lead to change and improvement, because wouldn't it be nice if we could overcome these challenges and fix our enrollment issues? It should be manageable. It shouldn't be like an extra thing on top of your work. It should just be part of the work that you're doing. It should be informative. You should learn something from it and maybe get you to think about more things. And it should be robust. It should be useful to you. You could be like, oh, we could do something about this. So what's interesting is, like, we know the issues. The question is, how can assessment maybe help you solve them? So now I want you to think through these things you've brought up. So like I'm looking at, turning in documentation, understanding when, what the difference between an F and a W is. Are they enrollment ready? Can they provide feedback? Do they understand smart borrowing? Like all of these things, there are 3 additional questions to ask yourself. And this is sort of a mental ask. So question number 1 is, can you control this? So is this something that your department can change something to help students learn it? So for example, I'm thinking a lot of the student affairs areas, you might say like, oh, faculty could do this thing over there. That would really help us. And, that'd be great. And we can certainly work on that cross collaboration to make sure that, faculty are supporting you and you're supporting us and all that. But the first question is, the things that you brought up, are they things that you have control over? And the things that I'm seeing looks like yes, right? Would you agree that pretty much the things that you're identifying as roadblocks, you could control them. They're not outside of your control. The next one is it malleable? So could you think of an educational intervention, a behavioral intervention? Is there a way that you think you could get students to do better on this thing? And you don't necessarily have to know exactly how to do that part. That's where assessment might come in, because sometimes that's the trick. Like, what is it that we do to make sure students understand the difference between an F and a W? And then last one, is it feasible? We all know that we've been, very, very overwhelmed. There's been a lot of churn at our institution, a lot of things we're working through. So do you have the time and resources right now to do whatever this thing is? Because sometimes you're like, this is a great goal, but we don't have the time and resources right now, but it might be something we can do later. So in chat, or you can unmute and tell me, for the things you're thinking that might be stumbling blocks to students, how do you feel about these 3 questions? Do you feel you can control it, that it's something that you can change, that's malleable, and that it's feasible maybe within the scope of all of your work to potentially do an intervention? I'm taking silence as yes, but hopefully yes. And if for some reason you get one of these questions, you're like, okay, really, this isn't feasible right now, Then you go back to what is one thing I can change that maybe is feasible within my time frame right now. So those are the first 3 questions. Okay. All right. Thanks, Chris. He's like, all right, we could fix this. And the other thing, it is important to think about, like, what's, maybe you pick one thing at a time too. Like, there could be multiple things we want to change, but sometimes it's like, okay, what's the highest priority right now, or what's the easiest one to address first, and so on. Okay. So those are the first 3 questions. Now I have 3 more questions for you. And I should have probably put them in here as like 4, 5, and 6, but I didn't. They're still labeled 1, 2, and 3. But here are the next questions. So, and I'm going to make you maybe answer some of these. So the first question is, how do you know that students have a problem with whatever you identified is a problem? Do you have documents for it? Or is there a way to document it? So again, you can put it in the Padlet if chat's working better, throw it into chat. So answer question number 1 for me. How do you know? Is it just a feeling? Like, is it just sort of anecdotal? Is it something that, you and your peers have talked about? How do you know that the challenge that you have identified is a problem? And there's no right or wrong answers. You don't necessarily have to have documented it. That's just going to be something we'll talk about in a moment. Okay, perfect. Graciela's got great data here. She's saying, we know how many FAFSA applications we have. We know how many students could be applying for FAFSA. And the number, I imagine, is not the same. So yes, documentation, it's a problem. Okay, so without the paperwork coming in at the Veterans Center, students are scrambling the very last minute, which I'm sure is stressful for them, and I'm sure it's stressful for the staff. Late night emails from students, help me, help me, help me. All right. Yeah, because one thing that's nice to have is not that you have to have documentation before you start into some sort of learning improvement project. But sometimes it's nice to have to say, like, yes, we know this is an issue, and it helps identify kind of this prioritization. Yeah, I'm looking at, the smart borrowing guidelines. Yes, students have a lot of debt. And then if they don't graduate and all of that. This is great. Like Ben saying, they just ask us the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? Absolutely. Okay, so you have identified things like these are problems. You've got some level of documentation. Okay. Do you have ideas? And it's okay if you don't, because this is the hardest question maybe of this set. How you could help them do this thing, because presumably you've been trying to help them do this thing for a long time. And if it's not solved, it's because it's a really hard thing to do. Do you have any ideas about how you might do that? Now, I did see earlier in the chat something about the Canvas course, but yeah, Ben, go ahead.
So I'll be brave and go ahead and turn on the mic. And so, so this is difficult because I think sometimes we do have solutions, but we end up thinking, well, maybe we'll wait for district to create a solution. And that's that's saying nothing negative about district or anything like that. But I think sometimes we put ourselves in holding patterns because we're waiting for someone to create a solution. And that's just the nature of, I think, Maricopa and the 10 colleges. So it's that constant like back and forth. Should I do it, or should we wait? Or I think that's the one thing that I at least struggle with in trying to answer question number 2.
Yeah, I think that is really important to mention, because yes, I think we think about that all the time. It's like, should I invest my time and resources? And what if I invest all of my time, but then the solution comes out? Or yeah, no, I'm really, really glad you brought that up, because I imagine pretty much everyone on this call would say the same thing, right? they're like, well, do we wait or do we try to fix it now? Or probably, wouldn't it be nice if there were a district-wide solution to these issues? I will tell you, in the space of assessment, we have there's an assessment group, and we talk all the time, and like, I would love district-wide solutions to assessment, but they're not necessarily coming either. Somebody was going to say something, I think. Were you going to add to that, Ben?
No, I wasn't, but that's exactly right. Like, I think having the courage to go ahead and, move forward and try to implement small changes would be beneficial, but just, taking that next step to implement something, I think is difficult, because you're always, should I invest my resources? That's the perfect way to sum it up, I think.
Right, absolutely. Oh, and yeah, and Chris is talking about the teaching college model. Well, exactly. Like, there's this idea that we can be doing learning with students in every interaction. And I think that's, yeah, so I think that goes back to these questions, that the control, the malleability, the feasibility, that the solution you may want, the ultimate solution that really fixes things, may be out of your control, may not be as malleable, may not be as feasible. But so then I think what we're doing now and where we're going now is we're kind of talking about, how do we maybe scale things to say, we don't want to ignore these problems, but as Chris is saying, could we find ways to do it in a smaller, maybe like less intense way through some student interactions? And maybe, is there a way that when you are face to face with a student, so I'm thinking about the difference between F and a W that came up. Well, if this is a really big issue, could it be that in every interaction, that a group has with a student, they say, before we get started, let me ask you, do you know the difference between an F and a W? And if they say yes, great, move on. If they say no, I'm like, okay, let me just explain it really quick so that you know. And so there could be, yeah, these smaller ways that we could do some interaction that would do this. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you is that, how do you help students learn it? That's where we want to be providing you support, because that can be the most challenging thing. So you may know like all of the issues, but in assessment, like, our job is to say, okay, you tell us what the problem is. Let's help you brainstorm how we can find solutions that are within your control and malleable and feasible. Does anybody have an answer right now that they think might be a good one to how do you help students learn something? Yeah, Ben, go ahead.
So one of the challenges that we hear from students is that they're not aware of their due dates, their drop dates, any of the dates that correlate with their class. And so something that the A&R team has started doing, so with every interaction that we have with the student, we're taking that extra time, whether it's in person, over the phone, or through chat, we're taking that time when we conclude the enrollment or the dropping of a class to direct the student's attention to the student center. Have you checked your student center? This is where you find your dates. These are the important refund times. This is, the contact information for the business office should you need your refund. So we're just taking that extra moment to help students learn about their due dates and drop dates. And so we would like something more robust, but that's something that we felt like on a scale that we could handle.
Yeah, and that can be a great place to start. I mean, I think that's great. And it does address a little bit also what Chris put into chat around, yeah, you don't want to say, do you know the difference? I did say, do you know the difference between an F and a W? You're right, that's a bad question, because they could say yes when they don't. You do want to ask a more probing kind of question. In assessment, we talk about pre and post measures, like the pre-test question where you ask and then you see if they know it. And if they don't, then you do a little intervention where you describe the information and then you ask them again, tell me back again what it is. So there are some sort of simple techniques. But yes, I think what I like about this is what we were hearing from Ben is exactly what we're talking about as student learning assessment. And so And even if you're not thinking about it, student learning assessment. So then this last item on this page, it says, okay, if you help them with it, how do you know? Well, many of you kind of said you have documentation of data from before. And so that would, like, you could see it in those documented ways. What's happening. You could see I'm sure there's data that would probably relate to it. And the reason I put these 3 questions up, and I know we're kind of running out of time here, is this is what we call, and this is the assessment cycle. This is a cycle that's used in a lot of continuous improvement. It's not just for assessment. This plan, do, study, act. And this lines up with those questions we just looked at. In the plan, you're selecting your learning outcome, and really your learning outcome in this case is, what do students not know that we want them to know? I wish students understood the difference between this. I wish students knew how, students need to know how to access this information. And so once you kind of encapsulate what it is they need to do that they're not doing, you can like write it out as, this is what they need to learn. And then you can think about, okay, well, how are we going to provide that information? Are we going to do it in these one-on-one conversations? Are we going to do it through a handout? How is that information going to go through? How are we going to see whether they've kind of captured it? You can look at the data and you can see whether it's working. And so, everything that we build in the space of assessment is doing these steps. And what we would like to be able to do in assessment is to work with you to capture this work that you might be doing already. And like in Ben's case, you're already doing a student learning assessment project. And it'd be great to be like, all right, let's just grab that and use that as an example of our work, or help some of you fill in the missing pieces here to help you do that same kind of work. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, really quick, back on the questions to gain feedback. I think when, whether you're, hey, do you know when your drop date is, or do you know the difference between an F and a W, you might run into a student that says yes, just to kind of end the conversation or pretend to know. And then if you were to follow it up with like, well, can you tell it to me? Then he or she might already be on the defensive, to where they're going to double down on their ability to pretend like they know the answer, versus if we open the question with, hey, can you real quick, after you get everything done with the students, say, hey, real quick, can you tell me when your drop date is, or your last drop date? And then you're not setting up this preconceived notion that they're pretending to know. And then you have an easier segue into the explanation of it.
No, that's great. And I think this brings up like a really good point. I mean, obviously I come from faculty. I have a different, that's the realm that I've lived in. Even when I do assessment in the space of my faculty role with any of the other academic departments, I recognize like I am not a content expert in any of these areas. Like I don't necessarily know the solutions. I would never tell you exactly how to do it. What we want to do potentially, if it's helpful to you all, is to talk you through or to provide support for this, because what Chris just shared, where he said, this would be bad. Like we know from experience, this would be a bad intervention that wouldn't solve the problem. Well, then we certainly wouldn't want you doing a bad intervention. And so, but yeah, I don't know how many of you have thought about the work you're doing as student learning improvement, because you're all clearly doing some cool student learning improvement, projects. And I think, part of what we want to do is find ways to support you in doing that, and also to try to capture some of the work that's happening and showcase it to the institution and use it in our assessment reporting as great examples of student learning. So, we're kind of a few minutes over. This was just sort of my last slide, that one of the things that we're really thinking about is, how do we integrate kind of the work you're doing in 4DX or your enrollment and retention goals? How do we integrate that with assessment? How do we find sort of these resources to work with all of you? And so kind of the closing piece of this is, what I want to do is I want to keep working with the student affairs leadership, or some of the academic affairs leadership in some of these spaces, to think about what is it that we can be providing so that we can be helping you in any of the spaces you need help with this, but also find simple ways to capture this work that you're doing so that we can use it as just great examples of the learning improvement that's happening here. So whether you are already doing a learning improvement project, we want to grab the data, or whether you're like, I want to do what Ben and Chris are talking about, but I don't really know how, we're here to kind of help you with that. So on that note, it is 11:30, so I do want to officially end and thank you for coming. We do have, I did kind of put onto the Gaucho schedule, this a workshop. So if anybody wants to stay and kind of brainstorm some of these ideas for what you might do or what your challenges might be, how you might talk through them, whether you want to stay together and chit chat about it, whether anyone wants to just, so if anyone wants to stay, I'd love to hear more about, like, I have to tell you, like, I'm so super enthused right now about hearing about this student learning work that's happening that I didn't even know was going on in your areas. And it thrills me because, I'm a little weird, but that's okay. But if you do need to go, totally fine. Make sure you fill out that form. All of this recording and other materials will be on our Gaucho site next week. But yes, and some of you have to head out, but if you want to stay and tell me more or brainstorm with me ideas, please do. If not, join us later in the day if you'd like, or we'll go from here and figure out how assessment can help your teams even more.